Hey, everybody. Are you a busy business owner and find it hard to get in your workouts or even get to the gym for that matter? But you know that exercise in your health is key to helping you feel better, reducing your stress, and really ultimately supporting your overall success, your long-term well-being. Then you are going to want to stick around because today's episode is with my buddy Marc, and we're going to pretty much geek out because we've both been in the health world for a very long time. And we're going to break down a mind and body micro habit that can show you how to meet your exercise requirements, even if you say you have no time. So let's rock and roll. I want to welcome you all to the Entrepreneur Expansion Show. This is the first ever gamified show that helps entrepreneurs master their subconscious mind, body, and business by implementing micro habits into their lives in a fun, supportive, action-oriented way to create more transformational impact and income. So, how often do you find yourself listening to a podcast or watching a YouTube video and doing nothing with it? We hope to change that today and give you a bigger return on investment of your time and give you the exact mind and body action steps to get better results from your learning time here. So, we have the fabulous health coach and natural fat loss specialist, Marc Overton, on the show today. So, we're going to basically have 20 plus years together, us two in the health world. So I'm really excited to break all this down. Thank you so much for being here, Marc.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, Matt. Thanks for the invite onto your show. And I have to say, I absolutely love the concept that you're doing in terms of micro actionable insights to implement into busy entrepreneurs' lives, and totally resonate with it because I still don't really consider myself an entrepreneur, but a healthpreneur, let's say, solopreneur.
Yeah,
And with two young kids in my 40s, I kind of get that plate spinning and how important it is to try and get some positive habits dialed in.
100%, 100%. And so many people, it's interesting because you and I both, we've been in the health world for a long time. And even like as you get older, like you said, I'm 40, you're 40 as well, and we both have two kids, and even with our wild lives, it can be tricky. So I'm just so genuinely excited to dig into this micro habit that you're going to share with us today because I know the way that the subconscious works is it will it tries to keep you in the safe, familiar, predictable, and certain. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's in the same habits that aren't necessarily serving you. So the micro habit that you're going to be breaking down today is really about micro workouts. Can you give me a breakdown of what does that even mean?
Yeah, I know. Firstly, I just have to say, as soon as we started talking about the prospects of coming onto a show, and you sort of mentioned the concept of micro habits, I immediately knew what I was going to talk about, right? Because I spend a lot of my time both performing this myself and executing this myself in my own kind of like way of going about things, but then also with people that I help, right? People that I coach with health, sort of fitness and lifestyle, and it's been an enormous. I just can't even tell you how profound the transformation it's had both on my life and people that I've worked with, right? So
Yeah.
in a nutshell, it's the way I like to start to explain it is to just do a little kind of paradigm shift on how we look at body movement and exercise, and we have to try and remember that our body doesn't really know or care whether we're wearing exercise gear or we're doing some kind of fixed workout routine, whether that's through fixed day programming or whether it's showing up to a gym at 6 a.m. in the morning with it, with our running shoes on. The body just wants to move at any opportunity, right? And it doesn't
Totally.
need a prescription on top of that, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, or 20-minute hit, or whatever it might be. It just wants to move. So the beautiful thing about micro workouts is that there's no real rules to them actually. And they can fit into your life pretty seamlessly once you get your head around it and you're open to the just being creative with it. So it could look like, as an example, let's say you've just done your morning emails and you've been at your computer for a good hour, let's say, and just to break up that postural slump that you've probably fallen into, and that little bit of brain fog that starts to seep in after, after being on the computer for that amount of time, you could just do a set of push-ups. Now, depending on what your fitness level is and how much how advanced you are, let's say on exercise execution, that could simply mean putting your hands against the wall and doing a bit of a kind of incline type push, or could putting your knees down. So you don't have to be super fit and ready to do this stuff. It could be a couple of air squats, right? Or not a couple, but a couple of sets back to back that takes no longer than 2 minutes just while the kettle's boiling, for example, just to break up that flow. So that would fall into what I consider micro workouts.
I love it. And I always love to pose these questions to the guests because my job is to help people change. And there's always, we call them ants, automatic negative thought stories of why you can't, right? These these out loud things that in your head that are like, hey, well, I can't do this, Mark, because, and you actually addressed one of them. One of the because is like, I'm not fit. I can't do a push up. Like you said, you can tweak it to base it. You know, you could do wall push ups. You could do knees down push ups. Whatever you want to do. And the second thing that I think comes up in people's heads is they're so used to just staying at the desk for a long period of time, and they're like the idea of interrupting that to just do this is like, well, I can't do that. So if somebody had that like I can't do that mentality, or of course the subconscious is going to tell it, well, we don't do that. So
Right.
what would you say to a person that is like, I can't step away from my desk?
Sure, sure. I mean, look, it's a great question. The first thing is you have to take a day where you're gonna have to take your first step, right? And
Yep.
what I found with or I've had a lot of success, if it's okay to share with other folk that I've been helping, is to habit stack. So to find something that you do almost on autopilot. So I mean, again, let's just pay attention to the fact there could be different scenarios here. So obviously, if you're working from home, for example, it's gonna look very different if you're in an office with your shoes on or your office gear on. You can't necessarily just break out into a full, you know, Bulgarian split squat or a set of burpees right in the middle in the middle of a working day. So there's obviously a few nuances to that, but there's you could go outside in that situation if you're able to. You could quickly walk down to the ground floor and then walk back up the flight of stairs back to your office. You could do that and set a timer on that where you're doing that every hour
Mhm.
almost. That's going to make a difference over a day, over a working week if you start to make that a habit. And as I said, where the habit stacking that I'm referring to, that could be okay. Most of the time, every hour or so, you get up and you make yourself a hot brew at work, whether that's a cup of tea, or you might go over to the water fountain to get a glass of water. If that's a kind of like typical daily habit, then you use that and you stack it with, as I said, doing that flight of stairs or doing something
Love
where you
it.
break into a micro workout. At home, it can actually be a little bit easier because we can kind of set ourselves up for success in whatever that looks like, right? So I would suggest that you keep it simple, don't overcomplicate it. So you find maybe 3 to 4 body movements that you find achievable, you actually enjoy doing. So like I said, I've mentioned a few, but there's so many to choose from, and you can get inspiration from YouTube if you need to. Body calisthenic movements for all different fitness levels, right? Will give you plenty of different ideas that you
Totally.
can execute. Find what you like. Whether it's you could be like I said, could be using body weight, could be using a resistant band, for example, that you simply tie around your staircase handrail, for example, or something along those lines. You have to be a little bit creative sometimes. Or it could be, if you are a little bit more advanced, by the way, then it could be, a pull-up bar that you just hang in the doorway that you walk past all of the time to go to the bathroom or whatever it is. But these setting yourself up for success in that way. Again, if you're working from home, it could be that you actually dress in almost like gym gear, right? Just to encourage
Yeah.
that thought process that today is going to be a body movement day. So these are little things that we can do just to prompt us to keep those micro workouts flowing. And the beauty of it is, let's take a push up, a standard push up, for example. Now, if I wake up in the morning and I know that I'm going to be working from home, I could just set the task of, okay, today I don't need to say on the hour, whatever the time is, but I'm just quite relaxed about what I'm doing mentally. But I just say today I'm gonna do some press ups, micro workouts throughout the day. And let's say I perform 25 press ups, right? Now, by the end of the day, if I've done 5 sets of those, I've already done a considerable amount of accumulation of reps,
Absolutely.
right, and sets. Now, if you did that over the week, if you're again, at a certain fitness level, you're going to very, very quickly build up. So this is not just about breaking up brain fog, and this is not just about sort of stimulating metabolism and waking you up a little bit. You can actually get an cumulative effect on this over time. And if you're somebody that's in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, that sort of age, there's lots of evidence these days to show that you don't get the kind of drain and depletion effects of, for example, going and doing a really heavy lifting resistance training session or quite an aggressive hit training session. So it can
Yeah.
actually be a little bit kinder, let's say, on the nervous system, and it enables the immune system to stay strong rather than suppressed.
Yeah, I love all of this, and something that I'll add to this is like you said, if you're in a suit and a tie, you can't necessarily be breaking a burpees in the middle of your office. But I've found that you can do a lot of different things that kind of are almost like secret, like just standing up and sitting down off out of your chair. Those are air squats, y'all, and it's not as weird as burpees in the middle of the office, as well as when I first started my business, I was also a full-time teacher. And I found that I just kind of worked in throughout my day those little things. So I would do lunge walks was
Yeah.
an example of just like I would lunge walk. And it's the compounding effect of this that makes it really powerful, folks. It's like you
Yeah.
don't realize how because this is actually this is really the other issue that comes up in people's heads. Will this really give me results? That's the thought that they get in their heads. And I found, because I've done plenty of just, 60-minute workouts, high intensity interval training, all that stuff. And I found this works just as well. And actually it's I found it even better, like you said, on just my overall well-being, my adrenals, just like it, sometimes that other stuff can be pretty costly of cortisol release and just like really, really draining you. And this just allows you to move throughout the day. And there's so many studies coming out that it actually helps doing it throughout the day helps you to, helps with your blood sugar, your insulin resistance, things like that. So it's just a really powerful micro habit that you can go throughout the day. And one thing I want everybody to catch what Mark said there is stacking it with something else you already do. So something you already do. So if you, this is how I actually started to put it into my life. Brush my teeth equals 10 counter push-ups. And then drinking water in the morning was 10 air squats. So I'm just tacking it on to that other thing. And it does not take long. It's simply just starting to implement it and train it. Now, what your mind is going to say, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. So, what would you say, Mark, to the mind that says, I'm tired and I don't want to do this?
Yeah, I mean that's the classic, isn't it? Because so our sort of like self-talk or our self-coaching sometimes isn't necessarily by design to be our friend, right? Or to, to want what's best for us. It's kind
Yep,
of always seeking a kind of comfort a lot of the time. But it's a bit like one of those ones where I think we've all had days where we've been stuck in the office or stuck at home, sort of like nose deep into some work, and you kind of like think, like, I know that I just need to go for a quick walk around the block, for example, just to change the scenery for a
totally.
second. And you kind of force yourself to do it a little bit, but once you get out, even if it's just a short 5 minute walk, you come back and you're like, oh yeah, totally. I really needed that. Now it's completely changed my focus and I'm ready to go again for another hour or so. And it's a bit like that. It's just reminding yourself that, okay, yes, it's not sometimes, depending on what fitness level is, again, it might be a little bit tough when you're starting out and you might get a little bit of kind of huff and puffy by doing, a set of push-ups or a set of air squats, whatever it might be. But just to remember that it is only a short burst, it is only a micro workout, it's only
Totally.
going to last a minute or two, and the benefits are going to far outweigh what happens if you just stay sat down in your chair. And again, it's just breaking up. There's so many. You mentioned obviously blood sugar and some of the metabolic positive responses that we get from it. But there's so many other styles, even just like moving, moving our limbs, our joints, or just loosening up the connective tissues, stopping that sedentary or breaking up that sedentary pattern, which has just got so many downsides to it. And you're just going to feel in a much better mood, generally speaking. And
Absolutely.
just to add to what you were saying as well about the benefits that are out there these days from a science point of view. Like I remember last summer, if it's okay to share, like I basically no, I train, but I'm not nowhere near like I used to. I probably work out a third of the time that I used to these days. So it's definitely a
Yeah,
less with more approach, lots more micro workouts. However, when I am in my usual routines, I do go to the gym for a few times a week, and I do my resistance training. Anyway, last summer I broke it completely for 2 months, and I focused as a kind of self experiment. And I just said, I'm not going to go anywhere near a gym. I'm just going to focus on micro workouts, just going through the
mm,
main movement patterns, what it pushing, pulling, squatting, just going through those main movement patterns, whether with bands or body weight for 2 months. And, I kept to it. Most days I would throw in, a handful of micro workouts. And I have to say, it's all subjective, of course, but by the end of the summer, I probably felt the fittest I've ever been. And
nice.
I definitely hadn't lost any of my muscle mass, rest assured, right? And I still had, I still felt strong, still felt powerful. I probably had a little bit more endurance because I was doing a bit more higher rep type work.
Yeah,
And as I started to get fitter and more conditioned to this type of training, my push-ups, I think I was doing almost 100 by the end of the summer, right? Straight
it's
out.
awesome.
And pull-ups were, probably plus 20 and things like that. However, I just felt super fit and I felt like I had lots of energy and I never felt any kind of like muscle soreness or any of that kind of walking around like a cowboy nonsense, where you've had a heavy leg day.
Totally.
I just felt really, really good and conditioned, and I was sleeping well. And yeah, fair enough. Okay, you can always add on the fact that I was on holiday as well, which probably helps. But that was my kind of proof from my own experience that you definitely can get gains and you can achieve your fitness goals by doing micro workouts rather than just that traditional kind of down the gym or out doing your cardio sessions like clockwork.
Totally. I love this. And I 100% agree. When I started to add in those micro workouts for myself, I felt that I experimented with it the same as you did because I was like, I just want to see if it has the same similar type of benefit. And I found that it was actually easier on myself to keep going with it because it didn't feel as tedious as like going to, waking up earlier, going to the gym or whatever it is. And I still had the same metabolic gains. I still had all of the benefits, and it was just really powerful. Now, when we implement this, folks, so here we go, game time, implementation of this. One of the things that I'll recommend is starting very small. So, number one, figure out how many days a week that you're going to implement this into your life. So if you feel like doing it every day right now feels like too much, just decide 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. You pick. So that's the first part. Second part is figure out what you're going to do on those days. So I'll give you some hints. When I was really heavily doing this on a regular basis, I like to track it. Okay, so whenever I'm doing it, I'm tracking it. I use an app called Tally. It's on the iPhone, and it was a simple way of me just tracking how many rows I was doing. So I bought 2 jugs of water and I was kept them underneath my desk and I would just pick them up and I would row them. Okay. The second one was air squats, right? Up and down squats. I kept a mini band. It's over there. I kept a mini band with me just to do that so that I could add a little resistance to it. Pushing. So we have the rows, which is a pulling up and down, increase and decrease elevation. I added in some pushing. So pushing the wall, pushing a countertop, pushing the ground, whatever it was. So push-ups of any of that sort. And then simple things like just holding planks or doing lunges, stuff like that. So really, if you wanted to keep it super simple, folks, right out of the gate this week, just start with air squats. Keep it simple. Don't try to add all of these pieces on. But the coolest thing about tracking is that when you start to track it, you start to see how much it adds up throughout the week and the month and the year. And now you start to do what I call streaking. So you start to hit this streak and you're going and going, and it actually continues to build on that motivation. So in review, you're going to, number one, decide how many days a week you're going to do this. Number two, what are you going to do? Just picking what you want to do. Like I said, you could just start with air squats. Keep it simple, y'all. And then start to implement it in habit stack with other things. And then, of course, come back and let Marc and I know how it went for you. Just let us know. Like I say on every episode, we're human beings. We love helping people. So if you want more support and help with this, reach out to Marc. He's fantastic at helping people achieve their goals. And if they were to try to find you on the internet, I'm of course going to add you to the community so they can connect you within there. But
Yeah.
if they were to try to find you, where do you usually hang out on the socials?
So the socials, my main one at the moment is LinkedIn. You can find me there. My name's
Wonderful.
Marc Overton, spelled with a C. My sort of like brand, aka nickname, is Metabolic Marc because I do specialize in metabolic health. You can
Love it.
find me on Instagram as well, Metabolic Marc, metabolic.marc, and Facebook as well. You can find me there too.
I love all of that. So, folks, I'm really excited to see you put this into your life. It and this is kind of one of the last things I'll say is that what is easy to do, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. Would you agree with that, Marc?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think most people will be sort of pleasantly surprised, let's say, how once you get going with it, once you get a little bit of momentum and you start to get like, oh, okay, actually, I could, like, as I said, if you just remember, there's no rules to this. I love the frameworks you've just given,
Yeah.
Matt, in terms of people getting people started. But I also just want to reiterate, don't overthink it. Right,
Hmm.
keep it simple. Find the exercises that work for you, that you enjoy, and that you know you can perform, and then just go with it. Throw them in as and when it comes into your mind. You might find an hour, you slipped your mind, and then you go, oh, "Damn it, haven't done anything in the last hour or two," and then you just jump right back on it. You're still going to be accumulating, and you're still going to move in your body.
Absolutely, folks. Absolutely. So excited to hear and see how you all do with this. And like always, folks, remember, keep showing up, taking action, and you will get results. Have a fantastic day.